Okay, I think I'm live. I'll just check with the YouTube video as well. Okay, it works. It's immer always time. Okay. So I'm online. But no one else is. Sarah said she would come. So let's see. Oof. Okay. The table is shaking. That one view was myself watching. Funny. Okay. Oh. Hi, Sarah. You're the first one to show up. And funnily enough, it doesn't show that you are here. Okay. That's weird. How are you? When I'm already at it. No, this goes so fast with the minutes. Already 2 minutes live. Now it shows. I think my V-lane is a little bit weird today. I'm also fine, still very tired. But that's to be expected after last night. I think I ran miles at the wedding, so my kid kept me busy, and I'm still very tired from the wedding, but aside from that, I'm doing fine. Haha, I just told the book into the cam here. Yeah, it works. Or I could place it here as well. It's kind of confusing that the cam is turned around. So that makes it hard to show the book. But we will discuss the extraordinaries that I can get it out today. And I already marked a lot of quotes in here. It got pretty colorful once again. And I also marked the important ones up here. My typical system for reading a book. Did you mark anything in the book as well? Were there special quotes you marked? Okay. You don't mark them. I started to put in those post-its and tiny things when I started to write reviews, because I realized they really help a lot to remember when you read a book, and to remember certain quotes or situations. with the characters. So I started to mark them with a lot of different colors. Okay, let's do this and let's discuss the book. First of all, I have to say that this was the most hilarious book I ever read. I mean, I'm used to easy banter in some of the books and to funny conversations, but I think I didn't laugh as much as while I read this book ever since, I think, Six of Crows. Six of Crows was funny as well, but I never laughed as much reading Six of Crows like I loved when I read this one. This one was so funny, which is kind of interesting because when I read The House in the Cerulean Sea, I sometimes had to smile at some of the things that children said, but I didn't really flat out laugh. I mean, I even got weird looks while I read it. So this was really hilarious. And yeah, Six of Crows was great. I loved the entire duology, and I'm still waiting for book 3. And I think Lee Bardugo recently said that it will take a while for book 3 to come out. She's planning to write it, but she has so many other ideas she wants to get to first before she starts to write this book. I think she said it on Instagram in one of her stories. One of the people that follows her asked her, and she answered like that. So I guess we will have to wait a little bit longer for that book. Okay, and I think, I don't know, it's kind of impossible to talk about this book without going for spoilers. Because when I start to talk about my thoughts on this one, I will have to spoil. So everyone who's watching and hasn't read the book, this is the perfect time to just log out of the conversation. Because if you don't want to be spoiled, I might spoil now, because otherwise I can't discuss the book. And it's actually the first book in a trilogy, I think. And as far as I could see, the third book is already out. So I think I might just continue to read the series, because after the ending, I'm very curious where this is going to head. And I think when we talk about Nicky, we have to acknowledge that he's like the most oblivious character ever. I think I never met a character that was as oblivious as Nicky, but he was really endearing as a character. I really liked him. He sometimes was really, I don't know, annoying. I think you can say he was annoying, but I kind of loved it about him as well. It made him very realistic, and he felt like a real character, which is something I really appreciate about Kuhn's books, because so far all his characters, and I mean, I only read The House in the Cerulean Sea and this one now, but he's becoming one of my favorite authors pretty fast, because I just love the way he writes and the characters he creates. The characters he creates, they are so relatable, I think. And Nicky, well, yeah, he definitely, it says on the blurb, Nick puts the extra in extraordinary. And yeah, that's definitely true. He does. He so puts in Extraordinaries. And I think I absolutely loved and adored his friendship with Seth. And even with his friendship, he was so oblivious. Like really, really oblivious. And yeah, that's I marked it here. One of the many moments when Nikki and Seth had something going on without having something going on. And there it is. Sometimes Seth worried too much about nothing at all, and it frustrated Nick to no end because it meant there was something making Seth feel bad that Nick couldn't tear apart with his bare hands. And that's so typical. I mean, even when Seth's uncle asked him where they will be in a couple of years, Nicky just said that he would be with Seth and that I don't know, he didn't even think of something different or a different life path. He just assumed that they would be together and do their thing. And oh God, I mean, how oblivious can you be? Yeah, Nick is sweet, but is so oblivious for sure. Also love his friendship with Seth. They were so cute. Those two were adorable. And I think there was another. The hilarious parts here. I had to laugh so much when Nikki meets Shadowstar in that alley and Shadowstar saves them. Him and Gibby. And he answers at Shadowstars, "Are you both alright? Aside from the emotional trauma that will probably rear its head when I'm 37 and working at my cubicle in a dead-end job that I hate, just fine," Nick babbled, unsure why the words coming out of his mouth were the ones his brain deemed necessary to speak out loud. "I'm fine," Gibby said mildly. "Any trauma I might have had is being washed away by the tragic comedy occurring right in front of me." I had to laugh so much at that passage. And speaking of Nick being super oblivious, I think I figured out the truth about who is Shadowstar and who is Pure Storm right at the beginning. I think it didn't even take me a couple of chapters to realize that. Yeah, mine too. And that hilarious kiss on the cheek he didn't mean to give. It was hilarious. I mean, I gotta say, I had a really early inkling about who Shadowstar and who Pure Storm are pretty early on in the book, but near the ending, the plot twist really threw me because I had it all wrong. I mean, not entirely wrong because it were still the two people, but I kind of mixed them up. And I think it was supposed to be this way, and everyone who read the book will make the same mistake because it all kind of points in the direction that that Seth is Shadowstar, and that revelation really threw me. I didn't expect that. I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't see that one coming. Which is really interesting. Clune made this very well, but aside from that, all the little hints, I mean, Seth works at an animal shelter, seriously, and is busy the entire summer and doesn't have any time. That was so obvious. Yeah. It was really pretty easy to discover the identities of those two. And I think it was also super easy to see that Gibby knew, because Gibby was one of the characters that always had excuses for Seth and tried to make Nikki understand. So it was pretty obvious that she was in on it. And I think what's really interesting in the book, and what, from my point of view, was done really well, was the representation of ADHD. I'm not entirely sure if it's accurate. I think it was, but since I don't have it, I can only say you have to take it with a grain of salt. But I think it was really well described, and to get a view of Nicky's head and how he thinks, how his mind works, was really interesting. And there was this part here when it says, as a quote, there were days when everything felt like it was dialed up to 11 and he didn't know how to stop it, no matter how hard he tried. For the most part, he'd accepted that some people were born to be extraordinaries and some people were born to be medicated, so they didn't spin out of control. Fair, not really, but Nicky was learning that his brain could do things that others couldn't. In a way, he had his own superpower, even if it was called a disorder. And that was really nicely done. And I think maybe a lot of people who have ADHD can relate to that. Yeah, the relationship between Gibby and Chess. Their relationship was amazing. I just loved those two. Those two were great. I mean, they all knew that Nick and Seth would end up together, and for them it was no secret. I really liked Seth's aunt and uncle, and Officer Rookie was great. I really liked that one too. And Cap was a really nice and great character as well. And yeah, Nicky's father. The conversation between Nicky and his father were chef's kiss. I always had to laugh so much when those two spoke about things. And oh my gosh, you could really, I think it was a really good portrayal of a father son relationship. And they had their insider jokes. And yeah, I think it was done really, really well. And they felt realistic. They felt really, really realistic, which is something very typical for Clune. After reading two books of him, I can say that realistic characters and characters you could find on the street are something he's really, really good at. Yeah, Nick's father. Ah, Nick's father was so. I just loved how he, I don't know, teased Nicky, and how he always kind of killed him by keeping the details of Shadow Star to himself, even though he knew that his son has such a huge crush on him. And he really loved to tease his son. But when push came to shove, they were really close and had an amazing bond. I'm kind of worried about what is going to happen in book two, though, because after reading the ending and seeing what Nick's father kept from him, I'm kind of worried that they might have an extremely huge fallout or that Nikki won't understand. Yeah, he's a really supportive father. That's true. That's true. I think he is very supportive in so many ways, but it kind of broke my heart at the ending when I found out that he's kind of suppressing Nick's powers and that Nick was an extraordinary all along, and that I don't know. It I think it hurt me probably more than it would hurt Nikki if he ever found out. But after all the trust and his support and everything he's done for Nikki and everything Nikki did for him, just to realize that at the ending, I don't know. I still I had a I don't know, I finished the book on Thursday, I think, and I had a lot of time to think about it. And I still don't know how I feel about this. I feel kind of betrayed on Nikki's behalf, but I also understand why his father is doing the things he does. Yeah, I really hope it doesn't change anything about the relationship because, as it is, those two are great together. And after the death of Nikki's mother, they are everything they have. So I really hope this won't change anything about their great father-son relationship, but I'm kind of worried it might. I mean, just to know how Nikki reacted when he found out about Seth. Hmm. I'm kind of worried about book three and two. I think it might be revealed in book two already, or farther along the line in book three, but it's definitely a setup that will come into play later on. So, yeah, I'm kind of scared what might happen then. And I feel very, very conflicted about um, Nikki's father keeping this from him because to see how Nikki tried everything possible to become an extraordinary and then to realize that he actually is one. Yeah, still mixed feelings about that one. And what did I? Yeah. Also, when we're talking about the extraordinaries, we have to talk about the other extraordinary. And ah, I I have a mixed relationship with Owen as well. Because when there was that moment when Nikki asked, "Who punched you?" Owen smirked at him. "Careful, Nikki. You're beginning to sound like you care. And we can't have that, can we? I already broke your heart once. Don't think we need to do it again." Nick scolded him. "You didn't break my heart. I was barely invested. It was a fling." And I really liked their interactions as well because honestly, this was the super interesting part about the book. We have we have on the one side Nikki's normal life, where there's Seth and there's Owen, and it's obvious. It's so obvious that Owen is the bad guy and Seth is the good one. And then we have the two extraordinaries, where Shadowstar is obviously the good one, and Purostorm is the bad guy. And I think that was done so well and so, I don't know, TJ Klune just did this so well to totally make us believe that both of them would be those extraordinaries. And then there came that plot twist and screwed everything. So that's he really played with archetypes in this one. Owen is a difficult, yeah, Owen is a really difficult character to like. I totally agree with that. But I still had a soft spot for him. I think behind all this bravado and his flirting and teasing and being slightly mean to everyone around him, I think he really liked to be a part of Nick's group. And I also think he really liked Nikki, because near the ending he wants to help him to become an extraordinary. And I think there was definitely more to it than just seeing Nikki as an easy victim. So he's a very complex character, and it's definitely not easy to love him. I totally agree with that. But he kind of snuck into my heart still. And I think there is a lot we don't know about yet, about his father and their relationship and what it entails and how they interacted together. And I think that's probably a can of worms that will be opened in the second book. I can imagine that really well, that we'll get more of their relationship in book two, and that we really see what Owen's father is capable of. So that's going to be interesting, I think. Yeah, and here I, I marked the animal shelter scene here once again. And oh, one of my favorite moments in the book was the scene when it said, and then the most extraordinary thing happened, something that caused all Nick's thoughts to come to a screeching halt. Seth leaned down and kissed his cheek. Nick felt a quick hot pulse of breath against his skin, scrape of lips, and then he turned slowly to look up at Seth. Seth, who looked horrified by what he just done. Holy crap, I've got to go. I loved that scene so much because it was the first time ever Nikki realized that there might be something more to his relationship with Seth, and that they are not really in the friendship territory any longer. Yeah, that scene in the bridge was super hilarious too. That's so true. I think Nick and Seth had their moments. And oh my gosh, the ways Nikki tried to become an extraordinary, quite honestly, I was sitting like this when I read the scene where he jumped into the river. I was, no, don't do it. No, Nikki. And I love this, that it always, his friends were always like, no, Nikki. And he was like, Nikki, yes. That was always hilarious. I mean, he made the most stupid decisions ever. But you still had to like him because he was he's actually a very precious and nice character and very chaotic. And I kind of like chaotic characters, so it was really a lot of fun to see Nicky and his antics and what he was doing. It was just so funny. And Officer Rookie was such a nice character as well. I mean, he was just a side character, obviously, but he was a really sweet side character. And I wonder if he might become a bigger part in the second book as well, because apparently there will be more to him as well. So, yeah. I think we will see more of Officer Rookie in the next book. Or at least I hope we will. Yeah, and sometimes Nicky really surprises us with his wisdom, because there was that moment when he spoke with his dad and said, but that doesn't mean you still can't be a good person, right? Just because you did something wrong doesn't mean that's who you are. And even if you keep doing the wrong thing, you can still be saved. Maybe they just need someone to listen to them, to hear the storm in their heads. And there was a really nice moment between Nicky and his father. There were so many nice moments between Nicky and his father. They are such a lovely duo. I mean, even at the beginning, when they spoke about Nicky's love interests, his father's remarks are so hilarious sometimes. It's so fun. Oh, Alan, hey there. Hi, Alan. You haven't read it but want to show your support. I think you're safe to join the discussion now. We're already out of the spoilery parts, so we can keep it spoiler free now. I think we mostly discussed the spoilers already. So thank you for joining and for showing your support. It means the world. The question is, do you want to read the book, or have you read any of TJ Klune's books yet? For me, honestly, The House in the Cerulean Sea was the first TJ Klune book I ever read. And now The Extraordinaries was the second book I read of him. But quite honestly, he's becoming one of my favorite authors right now. And I really feel a need to work for all of his books. Yeah, BTS buddies forever. Totally agree. That's so true. Army is always so supportive of each other, no matter if it's in the bookish world or in general. I think Army is really very supportive. I think I never got to know anyone from Army who wasn't nice, quite honestly. I haven't read anything from him, but I heard that The House in the Cerulean Sea is amazing. Yeah, it was so good. I read it for the first book in my Klune Along in July, and it was really such a lovely book. I can totally highly recommend it. It's so, I don't know, worth the hype. And it has very realistic characters. The children are pretty realistic, and they have typical things children say. So that's one of the parts I really love about Klune's books, that his characters are all very realistic, that they are relatable, and that the children in the books and the teens in the Extraordinaries, it are teens, that they teens feel so relatable and so real. That's definitely one of his strengths. He doesn't just write great stories and has a nice writing style, but he also manages to make amazing characters that all have their flaws that are totally human and very, very realistic. So that's really, I can highly recommend reading The House in the Cerulean Sea. I actually thought I was one of the few people that hasn't read it yet, but when I did my Clune Along Part 1, I realized that there were plenty of people that haven't read it yet. So, yeah. Uh, where did I mark here? I loved The Extraordinaries. The Extraordinaries, I can really highly recommend this one too. Sarah and I just talked about how funny and hilarious this book is. We rarely laughed so much while reading a book. The House in the Cerulean Sea was more on the serious side. There were funny scenes in it, and the dialogues between the kids were pretty funny. But this one was flat out hilarious. I love tears at some parts. Yeah, I love to add to be reads. I'm guilty of adding to be reads, but I just love to do that. Yeah, yeah, totally add The Extraordinaries to your list. It was so funny. I swear, I love tears, and at some moments, my hubby looked at me and he gave me the side eye because I had to laugh so much. Oh, hi, Epic! Hey there! Another curious soul that joined the vlive. That's funny. How are you? it it has to be either rather early or rather late. I guess it depends on your point of view. But yeah, growing to be reads. I love to add to be reads. I'm really glad when I can do that. Oh, not bad. Not bad sounds good, but also not ecstatic or all too happy. What is your favorite, The House in the Cerulean Sea or The Extraordinaries? Even two, I have so much fun with the other. Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. Huh. I think The House in the Cerulean Sea might be more my favorite because it was just, I don't know, it was so wholesome and so nice and sweet, and the story itself was something very interesting and unique. The Extraordinaries has the typical superheroes vibe, and it's one of the books you really can page through. That's easy to read and easy to digest, and not all too serious. And I think I like The House in the Cerulean Sea more because it's more serious and because the characters were more in depth. I mean, in The Extraordinaries, the characters are all pretty complex and different as well. But I don't know, there's something about The House in the Cerulean Sea that made it very special. I think from the wholesome vibe, it definitely wins over The Extraordinaries, even though I have to say that Nicky and his friends are super wholesome as well. I mean, alone when they found him and when Gibby and Jess said that they would always be there for him and defend him against everyone, that was really a lovely and wholesome scene as well. But yeah, I think when it comes down to it, I would say rather The House in the Cerulean Sea. Also because it's only one book. The Extraordinaries is a trilogy. There are 3 books. I think the second one is Heat Wave, or is it the third one? Something along those lines. Or there's something. Yeah, no. Heat Wave is the third book. Heat Wave is the third book in the trilogy, and it's easier to read a standalone than to read a trilogy. Talk about trilogies and books with a lot of other books. There are still so many series I need to finish, and a lot of them have more than 3 books, and some of them even have 13 or more. So I always have to think long and hard before I start a trilogy or a series with more than 3 books. Yeah, T.J. Clooney's great at building friendships. That's so true. That's really one of his strengths, I think, that he makes characters that have strong friendships and that go through thick and thin together. And yeah, that's definitely one of the things he's really good at. Also in The House in the Cerulean Sea, you could see that pretty well, that he put a lot of effort and energy in the relationships and friendships between the characters. And there's the Wolf song series, I think, something with Creek or so. And I want to read this series as well. I think it has 4 books and it's also by TJ Klune. And I've heard so many great things about this series, but I still haven't read it because it's a little bit intimidating that there are 4 books once again. So I don't know. I hopefully pick it up one day, but not all too soon, I think. I want to finish the Extraordinaries first. So yeah. I think I will read book 2 and book 3 of the Extraordinaries. The positive thing about The House in the Cerulean Sea was that it was just a standalone, 1 book, and then it was done. I'm still tired. But I think all the coffee in the world won't help with that. Only sleep. And did I mark something else here? Schatzi, bitte. Sorry, my kid just came out of the bed and should actually be asleep already. Yeah, children. Everyone who has some knows the trouble. She should be or should have been asleep a long time ago. But yeah, I really sometimes I wish she would have like, I don't know, I would have like a third of her energy or half of her energy. That would be so cool. But yeah, unfortunately, children have way more energy than us. Do I have anything else to say about the Extraordinaries without spoiling anything? I don't want to spoil. I think I marked here something more. Oh yes, chess. I mean, I loved Gibby and chess together, but chess was I just love Chess. Chess was such a no bullshit person. And really, I kind of liked that Chess and Gibby were such strong female characters. They don't have any superpowers, but they are still great. And I think they have their superpowers in their own right. Not the obvious superpowers, but they were such a nice and supportive bunch of people. And Nikki was really lucky to have such friends. And the conversations between Seth, Gibby, Nikki, and Chess were just hilarious. I I loved to have those four in a room and to discuss plans how to become an extraordinary. And quite honestly, it was good that they sometimes were the voice of reason. Not always, but sometimes. Because if they would have left Nicky to his own devices, I don't know what would have happened. It wouldn't have been good for Nicky, that's for sure. So yeah, I really like that Nicky had such a strong friendship group in that book. And I think in the other TJ Klune books, this is something that all the reviewers point out as well. So it seems like a lot of the books of TJ Klune have that in them. I don't know what the Under the Whispering Door is about. I heard a lot about this book as well, but I honestly don't know what it is about. I would have to do research to find out. But it's definitely a standalone, I think. So might also be a good start to start with TJ Klune, because all the other books I know of him are trilogies or series with more than one book. So yeah. But I think The House in the Cerulean Sea is a very good start. If you want to start with TJ Klune, you should definitely pick that one up. It was my first book I read from him, and it was a really good start. It totally got me in the TJ Klune um, in the TJ Klune mood, and to read other books of him as well. Okay. So, any questions? I gotta ask that. Okay. Still awake. Yes. Hopefully not for all too long. Under the Whispering Door, I think talks about death and has similar vibes to a man called Oath. Ah, okay. I have to admit I still haven't read a man called Oath either. Or Ove. I don't know how you pronounce him. It's definitely on my to be read, and I want to read this book. I think I even put it on my 2022 to be read. Still didn't get to it. Story of my life. But it's interesting and good to know that it's somewhere in this kind of direction. That's really, really interesting. I didn't know that. But I heard so many things about A Man Called Oath by so many booktubers and reviewers, and everyone who read it loves it. So I think I never even heard a negative review about it. Yeah, it's definitely one of the books I want to read and pick up as well. I just need to find time to do it. Anxious people. Isn't it Frederick Buckman? I think that's his name. Because if it's by Frederick Buckman, I think he's pronounced Buckman, then I actually read one of his books, and that would have been Beer Town, I think. Yes, Beer Town was written by Frederick Buckman. Ah, yes. Okay, so I'm on the right track. It's good to know. I read Beer Town by Frederick Buckman, and this book was so good. It was so good, but also kind of heart wrenching and heartbreaking and all the things. It was a tough book to read, but it's one of those books that still stays with me. It's one of those books you read once and then it stays with you for the rest of your life. Same goes for Sadie by Courtney Summers, by the way. Sadie was one of the books that's still with me and still doesn't let me sleep at night. I don't know if any of you read it, but Sadie was quite something to read. Highly recommended, more in the direction of, I wouldn't say thriller, but mystery, crime mystery, sort of kind of book. Oh God, Sadie. Sadie is, honestly, whenever I'm asked a prompt in a tag about a book that still haunts me, it's Sadie. And I read it about 3 years ago, I think. So it's been a long time. And I still think about this book every once in a while. So, yes, not for the faint hearted, but so good. And if you read it, there's a tip. The Macmillan publisher has some sort of, I don't know, podcast kind of that is in the book and that speaks about Sadie. And you can listen to it and a couple of chapters of it. So that was something that really enhanced my experience of this book, because I could listen to the podcast while reading the book, and that made it even more realistic and vivid. Why does the book haunt me without spoilers? Ooh, no, that's a challenge. That's a real challenge, because for everyone who hasn't read the book yet and who doesn't know what it is about, the book is about Sadie, a girl that lives with her sister, and one day her sister disappears. And Sadie is trying to make her way to find out what happened with her sister. And since no one does anything and the authorities just write it off and don't help Sadie, then she realizes or finds her sister dead, and no one wants to help her. No one, the authorities don't care. And Sadie decides to take it into her own hands to find the culprit who killed her sister. And she follows a lot of leads, and you follow her with those leads. It's the story is written in a very interesting way, because on the one hand you have those podcasts that are about Sadie and the way she's looking for the killer or murderer of her sister. And on the other hand, you see the chapters from Sadie's point of view, with the leads she's following and the things she discovers and sees. And it's a haunting book. It's really a very, very haunting book. The atmosphere of the book is amazing. And it's one of those books that just grabs you and you really just want to know how it continues. And of course, Sadie is getting in a lot of dangerous situations as well because she's an underage girl looking for her sister's killer. Of course, she gets in dangerous situations as well. So this is really, it was really so well done. And with the podcast as well. So yeah, the atmosphere is very haunting. And you just want to find out what happened to her sister, and you follow Sadie. So that along the way the book is written is already very, very intriguing. So yeah, I hope I didn't spoil anything now. I think everything I just said you could read from the blurb as well. So yeah, I hope that makes sense somehow. But this is definitely one of the books I can highly recommend. It's some sort of mystery thriller. Yeah, I would definitely peg it for a mystery thriller. And yes, this book still haunts me until today, and it will do for a long, long time. Not going to say more because I don't want to spoil anything. But I hope this answered your question now. I'm giving away a lot of book recommendations today. But yeah, they were all great books. Beer Town was great as well. Frederick Buckman has a way of writing. It's kind of lyrical, but in a really easy, digestible way. So I can really recommend Beer Town as well. It's going on your to be read. Okay, so I persuaded you. Good. If you read it, I'm very curious what you will say of it. I can't wait to hear your opinion about Sadie and if the book is going to haunt you too. And if it does, I take full responsibility for giving it as a recommendation. Yeah. I gotta admit, I rarely read books like that. But this one I read and I really, really liked it and enjoyed it. It made me think a lot. I think there are more books of Courtney Summers by now, but I haven't read any of them. But Sadie is definitely one I can recommend. All the others, I would still have to pick up to know if they are good or not. But yay, another person persuaded to pick up Sadie. I recommended it to my bestie, and my bestie read it, and she's also haunted now. But at least I had someone who discussed the book with me. I'm kind of sorry that she read it and she's haunted by it now too. But on the other hand, it was really nice to discuss the book and to have someone to talk about it. So yes, I'm very curious what you will say about it. I'm very, very curious. Whoa, it's been an hour already. Any more questions to the Extraordinaries or other book recommendations? If I'm already here and at it. I wonder if Alan is still here. Or if Alan disappeared again. You know, it's not easy to talk about books without spoilers. It's something I really struggle with because I don't want to spoil anything, but sometimes it's not easy to talk about the book without giving spoilers away. So I really try hard not to do that, but it makes it also very difficult to talk about the book. I think that's something every booktuber has to face every once in a while. I think it's also the reason why I usually don't make book reviews on YouTube, because I'm always worried I might spoil too much while I talk about it. I mean, usually when I speak about books in my reviews, there's like such a tiny part, non spoilery, and then the rest is marked as a big spoiler. And then I go into detail about the characters and everything. So that makes it easier. I probably could use that for reviews in video form as well, but I don't know. I'm still not persuaded that I would be able to do a video review. Still working on that and trying to get a hang of it. If I ever do, I will post a video. But so far, I haven't. Who Fears Death is the book that haunts you. Okay, I've never heard of that one. Is it a thriller as well, or some sort of mystery? I don't think I read a lot of books that have the potential to haunt me. But I've added a lot of horror books and grimdark books from your channel, Epic, and from Am's channel, to my to be read recently. So I think there might be some of the books that would haunt me in the future. Maybe. Oh, it's a post-apocalyptic book. Okay, yes, I can see why they would be haunting. I read a couple of post-apocalyptic books as well, but so far none of them really haunt me. Thankfully. It's enough when every once in a while there comes a book that haunts me and makes me think about it. I really don't need them all of the time. But maybe for Halloween, I will try to find a couple of books that will be interesting to read and more in the genre of horror and thriller. I've been collecting a lot of recommendations from other YouTubers and booktubers. Is in the similar vibe, the Gilded Ones, but a little more violent. Aha, okay. I recently read the Gilded Ones, and it definitely wasn't all too violent. I mean, it was at some parts, but it was more like fade out violent and not flat out violent. So that sounds interesting. I might have to look that up as a book recommendation. Okay, so it's been an hour and 5 minutes, and I think I might just wrap it up here. This was what we spoke about in the first half hour or 40 minutes. And then we kind of spoke about different things. But yeah, bookish talk is unpredictable. It can end anywhere. Okay, so guys, thanks for the support, for everyone who was here, and for everyone that asked questions and joined the chat. Thank you. Finger heart from me, a huge one. And I think I'll just wrap it up here and say goodbye and have a good night. Take care, stay healthy and safe, and have a nice Monday. Tomorrow is Monday, so there's a new week starting. And yes, bye, Sarah. It was really nice to talk bookish with you, and we definitely should go for a buddy read one day. But we have each other's Instagram and Goodreads, so I'm pretty sure we will manage to do one. Okay, this said, let's wrap it up here. Thank you so much for joining, for discussing the book with me. I can't talk anymore. And bye for now.